Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 609th night, she said, "It hath reached to me, O auspicious king, that Judar, when the baker, after summoning up what was due to him, said, 'I still owe thee 2 days' bread,' replied, 'Good,' and went on to the butcher, to whom he gave a gold piece and took meat, saying, 'Keep the rest of the dinar on account.' Then he bought vegetables, and going home found his brothers importuning their mother for victuals, whilst she cried, 'Have patience till your brother come home, for I have not.' So he went in to them and said, 'Take and eat.' And they fell on the food like cannibals. Then he gave his mother the rest of the gold, saying, 'If my brothers come to thee, give them wherewithal to buy food, and eat in my absence.' He slept well that night, and next morning he took his net, and going down to Lake Karun, stood there, and was about to cast his net, when behold, there came up to him a second Maghribi, riding on a she-mule more handsomely accoutered than on the day before, and having with him a pair of saddlebags, of which each pocket contained a casket. 'Peace be with thee, O Judar,' said the Moor. 'And with thee be peace, O my lord the pilgrim,' replied Judar. Asked the Moor, 'Did there come to thee yesterday a Moor riding on a mule like this of mine?' Hereat Judar was alarmed, and answered, 'I saw none,' fearing lest the other say, 'Whither went he?' And he replied, 'He was drowned in the lake.' What happily he should charge him with having drowned him, wherefore he could not but deny. Rejoined the Moor, 'Hark ye, O unhappy, this was my brother, who is gone before me.' Judar persisted, 'I know not of him.' Then the Moor inquired, 'Didst thou not bind his arms behind him, and throw him into the lake? And did he not say to thee, If my hands appear above the water first, cast thy net over me, and drag me in haste? But if my feet show first, know that I am dead, and carry the mule to the Jew Shamyah, who shall give thee 100 dinars. Quoth Judar, 'Since thou knowest all this, why and wherefore dost thou question me?' And quoth the Moor, 'I would have thee do with me as thou didst with my brother.' Then he gave him the silken cord, saying, 'Bind my hands behind me, and throw me in. And if I fare as did my brother, take the mule to the Jew, and he will give thee another 100 dinars. Said Judar, 'Come on.' So he came, and he bound him, and he pushed him into the lake, where he sank. Then Judar sat watching, and after a while his feet appeared above the water, and the fisher said, 'He is dead and damned. Inshallah, may Maghribis come to me every day, and I will pinion them and push them in, and they shall die. And I will content me with 100 dinars for each dead man.' Then he took the mule to the Jew, who, seeing him, asked, 'The other is dead?' Answered Judar, 'May thy head live.' And the Jew said, 'There is the reward of the covetous.' Then he took the mule, and gave Judar 100 dinars, which he returned to his mother. 'O my son,' said she, 'whence hast thou this?' So he told her, and she said, 'Go not again to Lake Karun. Indeed, I fare for thee from the Moors.' Said he, 'O my mother, I do not cast them in but by their own wishes, and what am I to do? This craft bringeth me 100 dinars a day, and I return speedily. For by Allah, I will not leave going to Lake Karun till the trace of the Maghribi is cut off, and not one is left.' So on the morrow, which was the 3rd day, he went down to the lake, and stood there till it came up a third Moor, riding on a mule with saddlebags, and still more richly accoutred than the first two, and who said to him, 'Peace be with thee, O Judar, O son of Omar.' And the fisherman, saying in himself, 'How comes it that they all know me?' returned his salute. Asked the Maghribi, 'Have any Moors passed by here?' 'Two,' answered Judar. 'Whither went they?' inquired the Moor, and Judar replied, 'I pinioned their hands behind them, and cast them into the lake, where they were drowned, and the same fate is in store for thee.' The Moor laughed and rejoined, saying, 'O unhappy, every life hath its term appointed.' Then he alighted, and gave the fisherman the silken cord, saying, 'Do with me, O Judar, as thou didst with them.' Said Judar, 'Put thy hands behind thy back, that I may pinion thee, for I am in haste, and time flies.' So he put his hands behind him, and Judar tied him up and cast him in. Then he waited a while. Presently the Moor thrust both hands forth out of the water, and called out to him, saying, 'Ho, good fellow, cast out thy net.' So Judar threw the net over him and drew him ashore, and lo, in each hand he held a fish as red as coral. Quoth the Moor, "Bring me the 2 caskets that are in the saddlebags." So Judar brought them and opened them to him, and he laid in each casket a fish and shut them up. Then he pressed Judar to his bosom and kissed him on the right cheek and on the left, saying, "Allah save thee from all stress. By the Almighty, hast thou not cast the net over me and pulled me out, I should have kept hold of these 2 fishes till I sank and was drowned, for I could not get ashore of myself." Quoth Judar, "O my lord, the pilgrim Allah upon thee, tell me the true history of the 2 drowned men, and the truth anent these 2 fishes and the Jew." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 610th night, she continued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Judar asked the Maghribi, saying, 'Prithee, tell me first of the drowned men,' the Maghribi answered, 'Know, O Judar, that these drowned men were my 2 brothers, by name Abd al-Salam and Abd al-Ahad. My own name is Abd al-Samad, and the Jew also is our brother. His name is Abd al-Ramin, and he is no Jew, but a true believer of the Maliki school. Our father, whose name was Abd al-Wadud, taught us magic and the art of solving mysteries and bringing hoards to light, and we applied ourselves thereto till we compelled the Ifrits and the Madrids of the Jinn to do us service. By and by, our sire died and left us much wealth, and we divided amongst us his treasures and talismans till we came to the books, when we fell out over a volume called The Fables of the Ancients, whose like is not in the world, nor can its price be paid, or any but its value to be even with gold and jewels, for in it are particulars of all the hidden hoards of the earth, and the solution of every secret. Our father was wont to make use of this book, of which we had some small matter by heart, and each of us desired to possess it, that he might acquaint himself with what was therein. Now, when we fell out, there was in our company an old man, by name Cohen al-Abdan, who had reared our sire and taught him divination and gramarye, and he said to us, "Bring me the book." So we gave it to him, and he continued, "Ye are my son's sons, and it may not be that I should wrong any of you. So whoso is minded to have the volume, let him address himself to achieve the treasure of Al-Shamardal, and bring me the celestial planisphere, and the coal field, and the seal ring, and the sword. For the ring hath a Marid that serveth it called Al-Rahad al-Kasif, and whoso hath possession thereof, neither king nor sultan may prevail against him, and if he will, he may therewith make himself master of the earth, and all the length and breadth of it. As for the brand, if its bearer draw it and brandish it against an army, the army will be put to the root, and if they say, 'Slay yonder host,' there will come forth of that sword lightning, and that will kill the entire army. As for the planisphere, its possessor hath only to turn its face toward any country, east or west, with whose sight he hath a mind to solace himself, and therein he will see that country and its people as if they were right between his hands, and he sitting in his place. And if he be wroth with the city, and have a mind to burn it, he hath but to turn its face towards the sun's disk, saying, 'Let the city be burnt,' and that city will be consumed with fire. As for the coal file, whoso pencileth his eyes therefrom, he shall espy all the treasures of the earth. And I make this condition with you, which is that whoso faileth to hit upon the hoards shall forfeit his right, and that none save he who shall achieve the treasure and bring me the 4 precious things which be therein shall have any claim to take the book." So we all agreed to this condition, and we continued, "O my sons, know that the treasures of all Samardal is under the commandment of the sons of the Red King, and your father told me that he had himself essayed to open the treasure, but could not. For the sons of the Red King fled from him into the land of Egypt, and took refuge in a lake there called Lake Karun, whither he pursued them, but could not prevail over them by reason of their stealing into the lake, which was guarded by a spell." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 611th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Cohen al-Abdan had told the youth this much, he continued his tale as follows. So, your father returned empty-handed and unable to win to his wish, and after failing he complained to me of his ill success, whereupon I drew him an astrological figure, and found that the treasure could be achieved only by means of a young fisherman of Cairo, hight Judar bin Omar, the place of foregathering with whom was at Lake Karun, for that he should be the means of capturing the sons of the Red King, and that the charm would not be dissolved, save if he should bind the hands of the treasure-seeker behind him, and cast him into the lake, there to do battle with the sons of the Red King. And if he whose lot it was to succeed would lay hands upon them, but if he were not destined to him, he should perish, and his feet appear above the water. As for him who's successful, his hands would show first, whereupon it behooved that Judar should cast the net over him and draw him to a shore. Now, quoth my brothers, Abd al-Salam and Abd al-Hahad, we will wend and make trial, although we perish. And quoth I, and I also will go. But my brother Abd al-Ramin, he whom thou sawest in the habit of a Jew, said, I have no mind to this. Thereupon we agreed with him that he should repair to Cairo in the disguise of a Jewish merchant, so that if one of us perished in the lake, he might take his mule and saddlebags and give the bearer 100 dinars. The first that came to thee the sons of the Red King slew, and so did they with my second brother. But against me they could not prevail, and I laid hands on them. Cried Judar, and where is thy catch? Asked the Moor. Didst thou not see me shut them in the caskets? Those were fishes, said Judar. Nay, answered the Maghribi, they were ifrits in the disguise of fish. But, O Judar, continued he, thou must know that the treasure can be opened only by thy means. So say wilt thou do my bidding, and go with me to the city of Fez and Bequiz, where we will open the treasure? And after I will give thee what thou wilt, and thou shalt ever be my brother in the bond of Allah, and return to thy family with a joyful heart. Said O Judar, O my lord, the pilgrim, I have on my neck a mother and 2 brothers. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 612th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Judar said to the Maghribi, I have on my neck a mother and 2 brothers, whose provider I am, and if I go with thee, who shall give thee bread to eat? Replied the Moor, This is an idle excuse. If it be but a matter of expenditure, I will give thee 1,000 ducats for thy mother, wherewith she may provide herself till thou come back, and indeed thou shalt return before the end of 4 months. So when Judar heard mention of the 1,000 dinars, he said, Here with me, O pilgrim, and I am thy man. And the Moor, pulling out the money, gave it to him, whereupon he carried it to his mother, and told her what had passed between them, and saying, Take these 1,000 dinars, and expend of them upon thyself and my brothers, whilst I journey to Morocco with the Moor. For I shall be absent 4 months, and great good will betide us. So bless me, O my mother. Answered she, O my son, thou desolatest me, and I fear for thee. O my mother, rejoined he, no harm can befall him who is in Allah's keeping, and the Maghribi is a man of worth. And he went on to praise his condition to her. Quoth she, Allah incline his heart to thee. Go with him, O my son. Peradventure he will give thee somewhat. So he took leave of his mother, and rejoined the Moor Abd al-Samad, who asked him, Hast thou consulted with thy mother? Yes, answered Judar, and she blessed me. Then mount behind me, said the Maghribi. So Judah mounted the mule's crupper, and they rode on from noon till the time of mid-afternoon prayer, when the fisherman was an-hungered, but seeing no victual, with the Moor said to him, O my lord, the pilgrim, belike thou hast forgotten to bring us aught to eat by the way? Asked the Moor, Art thou hungry? And Judar answered, Yes. So Abd al-Samad alighted, and made Judar alight and take down the saddlebags. Then he said to him, What wilt thou have, O my brother? Anything. Allah upon thee. Tell me what thou hast in mind. Bread and cheese. Oh, my poor fellow, bread and cheese beset thee not. Wish for something good. just now everything is good to me. Dost thou like nice brown chicken? Yes. Dost thou like rice and honey? Yes. And the Moor went on to ask him if he liked this dish and that dish, till he had named 24 kinds of meat. And Judar thought to himself, he must be daft. Where are all these dainties to come from, seeing he hath neither cook nor kitchen? But I'll say to him, 'tis enough. So he cried, that will do. Thou makest me long for all these meats, and I see nothing. Quoth the Moor, thou art welcome, O Judar, and putting his hand into the saddlebag, pulled out a golden dish containing 2 hot browned chickens. Then he thrust his hand in a second time and drew out a golden dish full of kebabs. Nor did he stint taking out dishes from saddlebags till he had brought forth the whole of the 24 kinds he had named, whilst Judar looked on. Then said the Moor, fall to, poor fellow. And Judar said to him, O my lord, thou carriest in yonder saddlebags kitchens and kitcheneers? The Moor laughed and replied, these are magical saddlebags, and have a servant who would bring us 1,000 dishes an hour if we called for them. Quoth Judar, by Allah, a meat thing in saddlebags. Then they ate their fill and threw away what was left, after which the Moor replaced the empty dishes in the saddlebags, and putting in his hand, drew out an ur. They drank, and making the wazoo ablution, prayed the mid-afternoon prayer, after which Abd al-Samad replaced the ur and the 2 caskets in the saddlebags, and throwing them over the mule's back, mounted and cried, up with thee, let us be off. Presently adding, O Judar, knowest thou how far we have come since we left Cairo? Not I, by Allah, replied he. And Abd al-Samad said, we have come a whole month's journey. Asked Judar, and how is that? And the Moor answered, know, O Judar, that this mule under us is a murid of the jinn, who every day performeth a year's journey, but for thy sake she hath gone an easier pace. Then she set out again, and fared on westward till nightfall, when they halved, and the Maghribi brought out supper from the saddlebags in the same like manner as in the morning, and he took forth withal to break their fast. So they rode on 4 days, journeying till midnight, and then alighting and sleeping until morning, when they fared on again. And all that Judar had a mind to, because he sought of the Moor who brought it out of the saddlebags. On the 5th day they arrived at Fez and Mequinez, and entered the city, where all who met the Maghribi saluted him and kissed his hands, and he continued riding through the streets till he came to a certain door at which he knocked, whereupon it opened, and out came a girl, like the moon, to whom said he, O my daughter, O Ramna, open us the upper chamber. On my head and eyes, O my papa, replied she, and she went in, swaying her hips to and fro, a graceful and swimming gait like a thirsting gazelle movements that ravished Judar's reasons. And he said, there is none other than a king's daughter. So she opened the upper chamber, and the Moor, taking the saddlebags from the mule's back, said, go, and God bless thee. When, lo, the earth clove asunder, and swallowing the mule, closed up again as before. And Judar said, oh, protect her, praise be Allah, who hath kept us safety on her back. Quoth the Maghribi, marvel not, O Judar. I told thee that the mule was an ifrit, but come with us into the upper chamber. So they went up into it, and Judar was amazed at the profusion of rich furniture and pendants of gold and silver and jewels and other rare and precious things which he saw there. As soon as they were seated, the Moor bade Ramna bring him a certain bundle, and opening it, drew out a dress worth 1,000 dinars, which he gave to Judar, saying, don this dress, O Judar, and welcome to thee. So Judar put it on, and became a fair sample of the kings of the West. Then the Maghribi laid the saddlebags before him, and putting in his hand, pulled out dish after dish after dish, till they had before them a tray of 40 kinds of meat, when he said to Judar, come near, O my master, eat and excuse us. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 613th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Maghribi, having served up in the pavilion a tray of 40 kinds of meat, said to Judar, Come near, O my master, and excuse us for that which we know not what meats thou desirest, but tell us what thou hast a mind to, and we will set it before thee without delay. Replied Judar, By Allah, O my lord the pilgrim, I love all kinds of meat, and unlove none. So ask me not of aught, but bring all that cometh to thy thought, for save eating to do I have not. After this, he tarried 20 days with the Moor, who clad him in new clothes every day. And all this time they ate from the saddlebags, for the Maghribi bought neither meat, nor bread, nor aught else, nor cooked, but brought everything out of the bags, even to various sorts of fruit. On the 21st day he said, O Judar, up with thee. This is the day appointed for opening the hoard of all Shamardal. So he rose, and they went afoot without the city, where they found 2 slaves, each holding a she-mule. The Moor mounted one beast, and Judar the other, and they ceased not riding till noon, when they came to a stream of running water, on which banks Abd al-Samad alighted, saying, Dismount, O Judar. Then he signed with his hands to the slave, and said, To it. So they took the mules, and going each his own way, were absent a while, after which they returned, one bearing a tent, which he pitched, and the other carpets, which he spread in the tent, and laid mattresses and pillows and cushions thereabout. Then one of them brought the casket containing the 2 fishes, and another fetched the saddlebags. Whereupon the Maghribi arose and said, Come, O Judar. So Judar followed him into the tent, and sat down beside him. And he brought out dishes of meat from the saddlebags, and they ate the undurned meal. Then the Moor took the 2 caskets, and conjured over them both, whereupon there came from within voices that said, Adsumas, at thy service, O diviner of the world, have mercy upon us, and called aloud for aid. But he ceased not to repeat conjurations, and they to call for help, till the 2 caskets flew in sunder, the fragments flying about, and there came forth 2 men with pinioned hands, saying, Quarter, O diviner of the world, what wilt thou with us? Quoth he, My will is to burn you both with fire, except you make a covenant with me to open to me the treasures of all Samardal. Quoth he, We promise this to thee, and we will open the treasures to thee, so thou produce to us Judar bin Omar the fisherman, for the hoard may not be opened but by his means, nor can any enter therein save Judar. Cried the Maghribi, Him of whom you speak I have brought, and he is here listening to you and looking at you. Thereupon they covenanted with him to open the treasure to him, and he released them. Then he brought out a hollow wand and tablets of red carnelian, which he laid on the rod. And after this he took a chafing dish, and setting charcoal therein, blew 1 breath into it, and it kindled forthwith. Presently he brought incense, and said, O Judar, I am now about to begin the necessary conjurations and the fumigations, and when I have once begun, I may not speak, or the charm will be naught. So I will teach thee first what thou must do to win thy wish. Teach me, quoth Judar. Know, quoth the Moor, that when I have recited the spell and thrown on the incense, the water will dry up the river bed, and discover to thee a golden door, the bigness of a city gate, with 2 rings of metal thereon, whereupon do thou go down to the door, and knock a light knock, and wait a while. Then knock a second time, a knock louder than the first, and wait another while. After which give 3 knocks in rapid succession, and thou wilt hear a voice ask, Who knocketh at the door of the treasure, unknowing how to solve the secrets? Do thou answer, I am Judar, the fisherman's son of Omar, and the door will open, and there will come forth a figure with a brand in hand, who will say to thee, If thou be that man, stretch forth thy neck, that I may strike off thy head. Then do thou stretch forth thy neck, and fear not. For when he lifts his hand and smites thee with the sword, he will fall down before thee, and in a little thou wilt see him a body sans soul. And the stroke shall not hurt thee, nor shall any harm befall thee. But if thou gainsay him, he will slay thee. When thou hast undone his enchantment by obedience, Enter, and go on till thou see another door, at which do thou knock, and there will come forth to thee a horseman, riding a mare with a lance on his shoulder, and say to thee, What bringeth thee hither, where none may enter except man nor genie? And he will shake his lance at thee. Bear thy chest to him, and he will smite thee, and fall down forthright, and thou shalt see him a body without a soul. But if thou cross him, he will kill thee. Then go to the third door, whence there will come forth to thee a man with bow and arrows in his hand, and take aim at thee. Bear thy breast to him, and he will shoot at thee, and fall down before thee, a body without a soul. But if thou oppose him, he will kill thee. Then go on to the fourth door. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease the telling of these tales for today, until it be morrow.